I didn't suspect my wife was cheating. I suspected she was disappointed in me. We'd been together for 10 years, married for 6. No huge fights, no ultimatums. Just a steady, quiet life that I thought meant stability. When people asked how our marriage was, I said, good, normal. I believed that. The first thing that changed was the way she looked at me when I talked. Not annoyed, not angry, just elsewhere, like she was waiting for me to finish, so she could return to a thought that mattered more. She started correcting small things. How I told stories, how I remembered conversations, how I described plans we'd supposedly agreed on. If I pushed back, she'd smile and say, I think you're remembering it differently. It never turned into a fight. That was the problem. Soon after, she began doing things for herself. Gym after work, solo weekends to reset, new friends I never met. She framed it as growth, independence, healthy boundaries. I told myself this was what emotionally mature couples did. Whenever I felt uneasy, she'd reassure me quickly. Too quickly. You know I'd never lie to you. I tell you everything. I just need you to trust me. I trusted her. Then one night, during a casual conversation, she said something that didn't sound casual at all. I feel like I'm always explaining myself to you, she said, and I don't want to live like that. I asked what she meant. She shrugged. I just want a life where I don't have to manage someone else's feelings. That sentence stayed with me, because suddenly, the problem wasn't distance or stress or growth. It was me. And once I realized that, I started wondering how long I'd been slowly repositioned from partner burden, without ever being told the rules had changed. After that conversation, she started rearranging her time in ways that didn't include me. Not aggressively, quietly, like she was optimizing her life, and I was no longer part of the equation. She joined a new gym across town, said it helped her clear her head. Classes ran late. Sometimes she'd grab dinner afterward with people from the gym. I never met them. Whenever I asked, she'd say, it's nothing serious, in a tone that suggested the question itself was unnecessary. She also became protective of her phone in a way she never had before. Not secretive in the obvious sense. No hiding it. No locking it down dramatically. Just subtle changes. Screen angled away. Notifications silenced. A new habit of stepping into the other room to reply. When I noticed and asked about it, she laughed. Wow, she said. You're really paying attention lately. That laugh did more damage than anger ever could. She began using therapy language in everyday conversations. Words like boundaries, emotional labor, self-prioritization. Every disagreement turned into a diagnosis. If I said I missed spending time together, she said I was codependent. If I said something hurt, she said I was projecting. I started doubting myself in real time. One night, she told me she'd made a new friend at the gym. A guy. She mentioned it casually, like she was testing how it would land. When I didn't react immediately, she smiled and said, see? This is why I love how secure you are. That compliment felt like a trap. Because the more secure I appeared, the more freedom she took. Late workouts became late drinks. Late drinks turned into crashing on a couch because it was safer than driving. Each update came with reassurance. Each reassurance felt like a request to stay quiet. The moment that shifted, everything happened on a Sunday morning. I went to the gym to surprise her with coffee. Something small, normal, the kind of thing husbands do. The front desk told me she wasn't a member anymore. I stood there longer than I should have, holding 2 cups of coffee, realizing that I hadn't just misunderstood a detail. I'd been given an entire routine that didn't exist. And once I saw that, I knew the life I thought I was part had already been replaced by a version where I was only included when it was convenient. I didn't confront her about the gym right away. I went home and replayed every conversation in my head, every casual mention. Every time she'd reassure me with a smile that now felt rehearsed. That night, when she came home late, I asked how her workout was. She didn't hesitate. Exhausting, she said. I really pushed myself today. I nodded and felt something inside me go very still. Over the next week, I stopped asking follow-up questions. I stopped reacting, and the more space I gave her, the sloppier the lies became. Time stopped lining up. Stories overlapped. One night, she said she'd been with friends from the gym. Another night, the same friends had supposedly moved away. When I gently pointed out the contradiction, she sighed like I'd inconvenienced her. "Why are you interrogating me?" she asked. "I thought we were past this." That's when the language changed. I wasn't asking questions anymore. I was interrogating. I wasn't confused. I was insecure. I wasn't hurt. I was controlling. Every attempt to ground myself in reality got reframed as a flaw in my character. The real crack came when she forgot a detail she'd already told me. She said she'd stayed over at a female friend's place, a friend I'd met. Later that same night, she mentioned how he had made her breakfast. She froze when she realized what she'd said. Then she recovered quickly. "You're twisting my words again," she said. "I can't talk to you when you're like this." That was the moment the doubt finally lifted, not because she slipped, but because of how easily she blamed me for noticing. I realized then that this wasn't just about cheating. It was about rewriting reality until I stopped trusting my own memory more than her explanations. And once I saw that clearly, I understood something else too. The marriage wasn't quietly failing. It was being actively dismantled, one lie, one label, one accusation at a time, while I was being told I was a problem for noticing. After that slip, I stopped questioning myself entirely. I didn't need more proof. I didn't need a confession. I finally trusted the pattern more than her explanations. And once I did that, the fog lifted fast. I started paying attention to logistics instead of emotions. Money, schedules, who actually showed up for our life together. I noticed how often I was a default parent now, how easily she disappeared into self-care while I held everything else steady. I also noticed how calm she was. Too calm. She spoke like someone who'd already rehearsed the ending, talked about finding herself and outgrowing dynamics in the same tone you'd use to explain a career change. There was no urgency to fix anything, only to manage how it looked while it fell apart. I asked her directly if she was seeing someone. She didn't say no. She said, "I don't think labels are helpful right now." That was all I needed. I stopped engaging in circular conversations after that. I didn't argue about language. I didn't defend my reactions. I quietly separated finances, documented timelines, and spoke to a lawyer once, not to start a war, but to understand how to protect myself. When she noticed a shift, she accused me of emotionally withdrawing. I told her, "I'm stepping back because I finally see what's happening." She rolled her eyes and said, "You're being dramatic." But for the first time, that word didn't land, because I wasn't dramatic anymore. I was done explaining myself to someone who benefited from my confusion. And once I accepted that the marriage I thought I had no longer existed, I stopped trying to save it. I started preparing to leave it, on my terms. After I stopped engaging, the house felt different. Not louder, quieter, like the tension had been replaced by something colder, inevitability. She moved through our days like a guest who'd already packed mentally, polite, distant, occasionally kind in a way that felt performative. She talked about needing time, about how hard this was for her, about how she hoped we could stay respectful. Not once did she ask if I was okay with any of it. I didn't argue anymore. I didn't need to. I focused on what mattered. Our child, stability, reality. I arranged my exit carefully, not out of spite, but because I'd learned how easily narratives can be rewritten when you're not prepared. When everything was ready, I told her I was leaving. There was no fight. She looked stunned, not heartbroken, not angry, just surprised, like she'd assumed I would keep absorbing, keep adapting, keep carrying the emotional load while she figured herself out. She told me she never meant to hurt me, that she just needed to be honest with herself. I told her something I had practiced saying in my head for weeks. Honesty doesn't mean dismantling someone and calling it growth. The weeks after were hard in quiet ways. Empty routines, split schedules, explaining change without turning it into blame. But something unexpected happened too. The noise in my head stopped. I didn't second-guess my memory anymore. I didn't replay conversations. I didn't wonder if I'd imagined the red flags. I finally trusted myself again. What I learned is this. Sometimes you're not cheated on in secret. Sometimes you're slowly repositioned until you don't recognize your place in your own life. And by the time the truth arrives, you're expected to accept it calmly because you were warned. If you ever feel like your partner is diagnosing you instead of listening, reframing your pain instead of addressing it, or asking for trust without offering choice, pay attention. Walking away didn't make me weak. It made me whole again.